This video is brought to you by the Other Way Marshall Consulting. Now, let's talk about something serious. Stalking and harassment can make you feel completely powerless. But what if you could actually take back control? We're going to show you how to shift from a place of fear to one of empowered, proactive safety.
All right, so where do we even begin? Well, we have to start by understanding the true nature of the threat. And you'll see it's something that is very often hiding right in plain sight. You know, when most people think about stalking, their minds go straight to the movies, right? Some kind of rare, super dramatic event. Or maybe worse, they just write it off as annoying attention, something you should just ignore. But what if that's a really dangerous way to look at it?
Well, here's the reality. Check out this number, 3.4 million. That's how many Americans 16 and older are stalked every single year. So that brings up a really important question. When does that unwelcome attention cross the line and become an actual pattern of fear?
The answer, and the core of what we're talking about today, is a powerful method called proactive layered safety. This is a core principle we teach at the Other Way Marshall Consulting, and we're about to dive deep into how you can use it to navigate this exact problem.
So, to really get a handle on this proactive approach, we first have to understand how these situations get worse over time. Let's walk through what's called the escalation pathway. This is how seemingly small things can build into something much, much more dangerous. Okay, first, let's get our terms straight because this is a super crucial distinction. On one hand, you have harassment, right? That's unwelcome conduct that makes for a hostile, upsetting environment. But stalking, that's different. It's a pattern of behavior that causes a reasonable person to feel fear. The two key words there, pattern and fear. You got to remember those. And this timeline shows you exactly how that happens. Look, it might start with something you try to brush off, like some derogatory remarks or just unwanted attention. But then that can morph into persistent harassment. We're talking repeated calls, constant messages, maybe even showing up where you are uninvited. And from there, it can absolutely escalate into fear-inducing stalking with implied threats, surveillance, or even property damage. See? It's the pattern that creates the threat, not just one single incident.
So, knowing all that, how do you actually fight back? Well, it's all about making a mental shift. You have to move away from just reacting to things as they happen and start actively preventing them from escalating in the first place. That's the proactive strategy. You know, the biggest mistake people make is what I like to call playing whack-a-mole. You know the game, right? You block one of their social media accounts and poof, they just create another one. You ignore a text, so they show up at your work. This reactive approach, it's a losing game because a determined perpetrator will always find a way around it. And worse, when they get frustrated, they often escalate their tactics. And that is where proactive layered safety comes in. This isn't about just playing defense anymore. It's about going on offense for your own security. By weaving together digital security, physical safety, and your community support system, you're creating multiple unified barriers. You're making yourself a much harder and, frankly, a much less appealing target. Okay, so that all sounds good in theory, right? But how do you actually put it into practice? Let's break down the real, actionable steps you can take to build these layers and start taking back control. All right, let's start with layer one, your digital security. I mean, think about it. In our world today, your online life can give a harasser a treasure trove of information. So locking down your digital footprint, that's absolutely step one. Okay, here's a quick checklist. Now, a lot of this is probably going to sound familiar, strong passwords, private social media, all that good stuff. But don't tune out. Think about the stuff that's publicly available about you on those people search sites. They're called data brokers, and they literally collect and sell your personal info, which is a goldmine for a stalker. You can go to those sites one by one and ask them to take your info down, but it takes forever. There are services like Optory that can actually automate that process and help cut off a stalker's main source of information. So once you've started hardening your digital self, we move on to layer two, your physical safety. This is all about making yourself less predictable and beefing up your security in the real world. The key here is to be unpredictable. Don't take the same route to work every day. Let a few trusted friends or family know what's going on. And yes, enhance your home security. But, and I really can't stress this enough, document every single incident. Get a notebook, write down the date, the time, exactly what happened. Keep any evidence. This documentation is absolutely critical if you ever need to get law enforcement involved. And last but not least, always, always trust your gut. If the situation feels wrong, it is. And finally, we get to layer 3. And honestly, this might be the most important layer of them all. This is your community and your own self-care, because you do not have to go through this alone, and you shouldn't. Look, being stalked takes a massive toll, mentally and emotionally. The stress is constant, and it's so isolating. That's why seeking therapy isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of incredible strength. Connect with advocacy groups. They know exactly what you're going through. Lean on your friends and family. And please, burn this into your brain. This is never, ever your fault. Think about this for a second. Imagine someone who only blocked the harasser online. The harasser gets frustrated and escalates to showing up at their work. But what happens if that person then documents the incident, puts these digital and physical safety plans into action, and informs their employer? Suddenly, the perpetrator is facing multiple, unified barriers, and they stop. If you want to learn more about how to apply these powerful principles to your own personal safety, check out The Other Way Marshall Consulting at theotherway.biz. They have a ton of great resources and training options. So, we've talked about building all these layers of defense, but what's the glue that holds it all together? Well, it's your mindset. So let's talk about how we move from a place of just being afraid to a place of genuine resilience. It all begins with something called situational awareness. And I'm not just talking about, looking over your shoulder when you walk down the street. I'm talking about a bigger picture. Being aware of your digital footprint, your physical surroundings, and that escalation pathway we talked about. This is what shifts you from just reacting to a threat to proactively getting ahead of it. And when you have that awareness, you can build something we can call empowered resilience. Now, this is not about being fearless or tough. It's actually about validating the threat, acknowledging that it's real and it's scary, but then refusing to be defined by it. That's what gives you the clarity and the calm you need to actually execute the safety plan you've put in place. So, I'm going to leave you with a simple experiment. Later today, I want you to open a private or incognito browser window and Google your full name. What pops up? Can you find your address, your phone number, pictures of your family? This little exercise isn't about making you paranoid. It's about helping you see what a potential perpetrator sees. It's the first step to taking back control of your own story. So go ahead, ask yourself, what does your digital shadow reveal about you?